Hi, my name is Sarah Schlomer, and I want to share what my life has been like with stiff person syndrome since there's such little research, and I have been able to find less than 10 people who both have EDS and SPS. So when I was born with jaundice, and I was a C-section baby, and I've had to deal with infections from birth all the way up until present. I remember my first attack was around age 6 when I came from Texas to Michigan, and my muscles in my left leg went extremely tight to the point that it felt like they were pulling off of my bones, and my foot and my toes absolutely were dislocated and turned to the side. The muscle was pulling, the muscle in my foot was pulling my foot so that it was trying to clamp down. It was very painful to the point that I fell out of bed and hit my dresser on the way down. Now, because my parents were very zealous in their religion, they did not believe in medical intervention. Therefore, I did not receive any growing up. I instead kind of treated everything like I was in boot camp. I just had to go through it. These were growing pains. So I had speech problems. I had a lot of speech problems. When it came to reading, I was very well read. I've always held a high GPA, but I'm the person that you would want to skip when it came to reading out loud. And I would try, but I couldn't do it. It would also, stiff person syndrome would make it so that if I was emotional about anything, I would start shaking inside, and sometimes on the outside too. So my hands would get really bad, and I would start sweating, and there were different times, even as a child when I was in elementary school, that I was emotional to the point that I stiffened up and I couldn't breathe until I puked, and then I'd pass out and get up, and the school would send me home. Every school that I ever went to would give me a chair or a place to sit in, so that I could be alone and in a quiet place, because I was fighting something, and clearly I wasn't getting any help for it, even though my parents were being told to bring me to the doctor. So I started having problems with my gastrointestinal system as I started to hit puberty. It started when I was younger, but I believe that was due to EDS, and then with the SPS, when I went through puberty, I thought that I had endometriosis, and it turned out I do, but all of the cramps and all the spasms that I was dealing with, they moved up to my pelvic floor, and I was dealing with labor. It was confirmed, it's been confirmed that I have been through labor more times than I can count, and I have no kids. Incredibly painful. It's torn up my gastrointestinal system, my uterus, and my bladder. My bladder runs with an inner stem. I have a colostomy, and I've had a hysterectomy. But when it comes to growing up, I had a lot of cramps and a lot of twitches, just little twitches here and there with my arm. Just wanted to twitch the muscle when I would run, just the amount of pain that I would have to deal with afterwards. But I would still do it. I was very healthy. I was an overachiever. So with all the stress that was going on in my life, I was mentally able to handle it, but my body was not. When I complained to my doctor about all this stuff, I told her that I believed that I was dealing with endometriosis, and she put me on antidepressants. So that did not help at all. In fact, by age 20, I started smoking marijuana, and that did help. That helped my spasms greatly. In fact, it held off a lot of my spasms until I really couldn't handle things anymore, because I thought I had bladder cancer. And I ended up going to see a urogynecologist who told me that I had interstitial cystitis, confirmed the endometriosis, and later on took out my uterus for me. But I cannot tell you how many problems I've had without being properly medicated growing up, and without having doctors, specialists in my life. When you find a good doctor, a good specialist, find out who he would refer you to, or who she would refer you to. And this really has kept me alive. I just want to share that there are some things that growing up I didn't understand at all. The shaking would happen not only when I was emotional, but when I was cold. And I just couldn't handle what was all going on, and I thought it was normal. So it isn't. It's my normal, but it really shouldn't be anybody's normal, and I don't want anybody to relive my life. Therefore, I am sharing with you what I've been through, and the damage that stiff person syndrome has caused, and how EDS absolutely has been a good way of disguising it, because I can relocate my bones, but when it moved all the way up my body, I started to deal with spasms that would move my ribs, and I deal with esophageal spasms. I have cranial instability. My skull is unstable, so I will have attacks that last hours, if not for the entire day, until I'm properly sedated in the hospital, because of my neurological disorder. It's a lot like epilepsy and dystonia kind of mixed, but you're lucid. So sometimes your body's very stiff, and in other cases you're moving, different parts of you are moving without any control. And with EDS, it absolutely moves my bones around and out of joint. And I just want to be able to express that this is what's been going on with me, and that's what makes things a little bit different than just having stiff person syndrome or having EDS, is the severity of the cramps are so bad that they create subluxations, dislocations, and truly I'm dealing with an autoimmune disease on top of a hereditary mutation. So thank you for listening.